Namaste everyone. I welcome you all for today's session on the types of models and the algorithms used in data mining and machine learning. In our previous lecture, we had discussed about the various types of models, just we had introduced uh, at the end of the pattern matching techniques. So we had highlighted that whether it is data mining or machine learning, we are ultimately trying to analyze the patterns, okay, and using those patterns in the algorithms depending upon the machine learning design or the data mining design. And then we had briefly discussed about the types of models. So just to highlight that, are we trying to predict what will happen or describe the state of world? So there are two types of models, descriptive and predictive. And we had also seen that the most commonly used algorithms for descriptive type of modeling is clustering, association, sequence discovery. Whereas the algorithms which are used for predictive type of model is classification, regression, and time series. Now, when to use which type of model? If you are designing a machine learning algorithm, it is prescribed that you use the descriptive modeling technique. And if you are designing the data mining algorithm, then it is advised to use the predictive modeling technique. I'll repeat, if you are designing a machine learning algorithm, okay, you're trying to train the system by feeding certain patterns, right? So you are trying to describe those patterns to the machine. That's why it is a descriptive model. And hence for machine learning type of algorithms designing, you use the descriptive modeling algorithms, that is clustering, association, sequence discovery. And actually there are many more other algorithms, okay, you can also find through the upcoming research papers on the descriptive modeling techniques or alternative solutions to the algorithms. So these are basically the techniques which are used in descriptive modeling, and we will be seeing today at least one algorithm of clustering, one algorithm of association, one algorithm of sequence discovery, one algorithm of predictive modeling technique, that is classification, regression, and time series. Okay. And if we are trying to identify the patterns from the existing data, and obviously if you want to identify the patterns which you are going to feed to the computer, okay, for machine learning, then those identification of the patterns is nothing but predicting. Okay, so that is why when you try to identify the patterns, you have to use the predictive modeling. To summarize that, if you want to design a data mining algorithm, then it is preferred to use the predictive modeling techniques, namely classification, regression, time series. So let's have a look what are the algorithms for each of the technique of the respective model. So descriptive modeling for clustering and associations. So for clustering, commonly used algorithms are k-means and Cohen. We'll see one of them. For association, it is a priori and GRI. You can have separate research papers on these techniques also, like if you search on Google a priori IEEE paper, okay, you will get a lot of things related to I priori. What are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, what are the comparative algorithms which are proposed by the recent researchers in comparison to a priori. Okay, as far as prediction model is concerned, the techniques regression and classification. So for regression, the algorithms are neural networks, rule induction, CART, etc. Okay, then you have classification algorithms as CHAID, C5.0, that is discriminant analysis, logistic regression, etc. So even regression, you have OLS regression technique and regression technique. So if you search in detail about regression IEEE paper, then you will get all the regression techniques, its benefits, its advantages, what are the comparative algorithms which are better than the regression techniques, and so on. Why I'm trying to say you this, as per your project, okay, whether it is descriptive or predictive, you have to decide an algorithm. The more algorithms you will learn, okay, the more idea you get. We understand that. But your innovation gets curbed, because the more knowledge you have, you try to obviously use the existing knowledge in your project. But what is innovation? Innovation is that you redesign something which is novel, which is something which is new. So at times, much more knowledge also curbs your innovation. So just to have an idea, I recommend personally to the students that go through one of the algorithm of each technique of the respective model, but finally don't keep in your mind that that's the end of the day. Okay, you can have your own named algorithm, publish paper on it, and you never know that that algorithm is much more better than all these techniques. You never know that there is a combination of descriptive model and prediction model which you use as a semi-supervised learning approach to your research work. Okay, so why actually you use these models and you prefer it? Okay, because the research has, why k-means is more popularly used. Okay, why regression is being used, why classification algorithm is much heard about, because they give us accuracy and better understandability. For example, if you think about classification and clustering, classification is that you bifurcate the data. Okay, because it becomes easier, as the example we gave you last time, that you try to bifurcate the university into departments, so it's easier to manage. Okay, and you try to group the similar type of data so that you get a better accuracy level. Okay, you try to identify the similar patterns. So when you try to identify the similar patterns, okay, then you use the approach clustering, which involves description. And when you try to identify the patterns, then definitely you will use the predictive model. Okay, because you are trying to predict. Okay, so the more the number of data, the more predictive model has a better accuracy, and the more patterns you try to identify, the more understandability increases, and you can have a better machine learning application. So why you have to determine the model? To have the hierarchy, you should need to first understand the business scope. Okay, so here it is mentioned data mining, but in my understanding for the entire data set, which I told you in your first lecture, that data mining and machine learning algorithm is much more related. If you remember this diagram, these all are related: machine learning, pattern recognition, parallel algorithms, high computing networks, which is nowadays used very, very rigorously in your internet and mobile computing. Okay, so these all techniques are quite interrelated. So finally, what, after my so much of research and time in projects, okay, I generally classify the descriptive model for machine learning and predictive model for data mining. So once you understand the business goal, okay, that's the step one. For this is basically for increasing the revenues. So our last lecture was machine learning for business, because ultimately, even for social cause, as we understood, money is important. What is money? It's a form of energy. Like we have positive energy and negative energy. Okay, you have to accept it that there are two forms of energy. Okay, similarly, even money is a energy. So obviously people use it as a negative energy also, and people use it as a positive energy also. The more you understand that everything in the universe is in the form of energy, vibration, and frequency. Okay, and if you understand the positive aspects of the energy, the more efficient use of that energy would be, and it will replicate in the similar direction. For example, if you replicate your energy in a negative energy direction, obviously the replication of that energy also would be in the negative direction, and so on. So coming back to our topic, after understanding the business goal, then next comes the data mining goal, that identify the customers who are likely to buy. For example, in our previous lecture, we had discussed about the signature analyst. Okay, so if I'm trying to analyze the signature of the person, I need to understand the business behind the signature analyst. Why a person for which the signature analysts are used. So signature analyst will try to help, in trying to improve the relationship problem. As last time I told you the example that at times there are a lot of children who leave their parents and they are living in the orphanage. So even by changing the signature, okay, you can attract the relationships for the positive approach. For example, the child comes to know the responsibility of them, that the parents need to be taken care of. Okay, so that is your business goal. You understand that signature analyst's role, it can be used as a business to improve relationships, okay, for financial growth, okay, and even for positive health issues. Yes, it's true that signatures do improve our optimism, okay. In overall prosperity, you can say prosperity is you have health and wealth both, right? So that's the business goal. Then what you will do, that you will identify the customers who are, so we already know that I have recognized that in the entire universe people have such type of issues. People have financial problems, people have relationship problems, people have health issues. So I've got a good market for my signature uh, analyst purpose business goal. So accordingly you will decide the type of model. What will be the model? That I will try to analyze the patterns of the previous signatures. For example, Amir Khan's signature, okay, the signature in between comes back. So what as a signature analyst one can analyze is that he has got good peak in his business, in his movies, but suddenly he comes down and he's not seen. That is expertism, that for 1 year he does only one project, but ultimately in a lot of looking at his history, he has gone too high and then immediately he loses also. Even in terms of disputes also, he has some disputes. So this is what how predictive analysts will go. So what are previous signatures have given them in their people life. So that can be a predictive approach. And after that predictive approach, I can use this predictive approach for even the descriptive approach. I will feed now the algorithm that what should be the signature be. Okay, so the algorithm used for the predictive analysis is the example given here is rule induction. We'll see that. So ultimately you have to train your data set. Okay, so in our previous lectures we had discussed about the 80-20 rule. So we prepare our algorithm on the 20% data set rather, and test it on the 80% data set. Okay, because if there are 1 lakh people who have used their signatures, I think much more than that. Okay, even if we take the actors of the period, the decades, that what were their signatures, then what were their lifestyle, what were the growth in their financial aspect, what were the growth in their relationships, okay, what was the how was the health journey. So there may be more than even lakhs, right? So you have to test it on 20% data, train it on 20% data, and then test it on the 80% data. What algorithms you can use as a part of the model is the neural networks and the rule induction. Okay, so in as said earlier, so in predictive algorithms you can use all these algorithms for the predictive models, right? And you can use all these algorithms for your descriptive model. So now coming to the descriptive model, once you understand the business, okay, you have understood, you will try to create the algorithm for signatures which can be used for people having relationship problems, how you need to rectify their signatures, what their signatures should demand, okay, if they are having health issues, what their signatures should be edited, and if they have financial issues, what changes should they make in their present signature. Okay, so that can be the then predictive model go to the descriptive model. So as I told you in our first lecture, that it goes hand in hand. Data mining and machine learning, it goes hand in hand. For training your 20% data set also, you need to have your past history. Okay, and that is data mining. Okay, and the more the data set is, the more patterns authentication you will be able to retrieve, and more then you can feed it to your machine learning design, and more efficient your machine learning expert system will become. So your training is very, very important, which the data set you try to identify. Okay, the more apt your data is, the more efficient your data mining system would be. So as recommended, you can go to the authenticity site as UCI repository, where you can get a lot of training data with different examples and domains. Then you feed them into your system. Okay, you can also add the testing data as the new data. So this model which you have designed using either predictive or descriptive, and then you feed the algorithm, and then you see that what is the results. So coming to the first descriptive technique, that is clustering. So as said earlier, that it is the clusters or the groups of similar data sets. Okay, so you can identify the actors who had health issues. So you try to group those signatures and the peoples or the actors in one cluster. The actors which are having relationship issues, you can cluster into one cluster. Those having financial issues, you can group it into one cluster, and so on. So the algorithm used for clustering majorly is the k-means algorithm, popularly used, but there, as I said, there are n number of algorithms available. You can find it out on the research paper, that what are the drawbacks of k-means, then what are the benefits of k-means. So what are the drawbacks of k-means are recovered by which clustering algorithms. Research is going on every day, so you will get a lot of information on that. But to have the basics right now over here, concentrating on only on the basics. So what does the k-means do? It starts the specifying the number of clusters. So you cannot have infinite clusters. So generally k-means clusters have 3 clusters in general. So you can have k is equal to 3. The cluster number is equal to 3, and the members in this clusters, okay, then that can be k data points, are randomly selected. Repeat until no change in specific clustering statistics. So there is the cluster over here. So this is the age, and these are the doses which are given. As per the age, what should be the dose? For example, if you give crocin, so there is a syrup. On the syrup backside, it's given that what, according to the age, how much ml you should give. Okay, generally syrup are for the children, for the adult, it is a capsule, right? So for the children, what should be the dose? And then according to the age, the clusters are formed. Right now, this year the age is similar, but you have 2 clusters. So depending upon, say blue is that the temperature is not too high, and say red is the temperature is on the higher side. So if the temperature is on the higher side, obviously for the same age group, the dose would be different. And here the red is what, that the age, as per the age is growing, the dose will also be increasing, right? So depending upon that, it has been classified into 4 clusters. Okay, you can take age, dose, and then the intensity of the health issue or the fever aspect you can consider here. So association is the another type of algorithm used for descriptive approach. Even for classification, that is even for, this is the algorithm which is, or the technique which is used for both the models rather. So even for classification, association rule is very, very important. So it identifies that items that occur together in an event. So if you read this statement again, it is nothing but identifying the patterns, but patterns in the form of if then else, right? So if A occurs, then X% of the times B occurs. So that X% is nothing but the confidence factor, right? So you can design this algorithm in terms of confidence factor and support, feed that algorithm into your machine learning network, and you can try to identify the patterns of the data items which are bind together. So it will be very, very useful for the shopkeeper to identify his repository or the grocery items list. So this is found in Y%. Okay, what this is found? If A occurs, then X% confidence factor of the time B occurs. Okay, and this B occurring is found in Y% of the data. So this Y% becomes the support. Okay, for example, if there are 100 data items, okay, A will occur in say 20% data items, right? So 20% data items, now since it is from 100, 20% means 20. But if you are calculating from 1000, then the figure would be not 20, it will be something else, right? So that 20 is the percent is the support of the data. So for 1000, 20% data is the support of the data, whereas out of 100, 20 is the support of the data. So this is also known as market basket analysis. So this is majorly used by every business person. Depending upon the requirement, okay, the items are purchased and then sold, because nobody wants that your repository should go waste. We had also given in one of the lectures the example about the car. So if you want to manufacture the car of a particular brand and the color, how that you are going to predict. Okay, so that example also you can go through in our previous lecture videos. So your example is given is popular for basket analysis that buys diapers on Friday night. Why it is bought on Friday night? Because generally this is, this is a US slide, Wipro slides, and all the clients of generally they are abroad. So they have a party time. Even this approach has come up in India also, because we have got a weekend. Generally people have a party time on weekends. So that is why this combination, rather it looks weird on the screen, but this is the fact. Okay. So similarly, there are other types of patterns which are also discussed. So if you can see this green and this orange, this pattern is seen very commonly irrespective to the other patterns. Okay, so this is how you collect the data. Okay, you have to do the exhaustive collection of data, put it into the table format, and then for 20% of the data, you have to identify the patterns manually, and then you can feed it to your machine learning to find out the patterns from the entire data set. Or you can even feed the algorithm of data mining so that these patterns are found out from the machine itself. But what the machine is doing, the machine is trying to see that which combinations are coming popularly. Okay. So sequence discovery, as said earlier, so this is used to find associations among the items. So if you don't want to do this manually, as said earlier, that you can even feed the algorithm to find out these combinations, okay, which you are able to visualize here manually also. So you can feed the sequential discovery algorithm into the machine and you will get the repeated patterns. Okay, so the related items are spread over the time. Okay, it may not happen the trend is always the same. As I told you that at times the trend of the attire also keeps on changing. So the people who are into the industry of clothing, they have to, according to the trend, they have to redesign their manufacturing unit. Okay, they cannot just one time over the entire century, they cannot use the same design again and again. So that is the meaning, is that you have to understand the relating items sequence that is spread over the time, right? So sequence discovery is that maybe that this year the sequence pattern was this thing X, and maybe another year the sequence pattern was something else. Okay, so in surgical procedure A is allowed, then the infection B occurs at a later time. So this is time related factor. Okay, if stock A rises by 12%, then stock B also rises by 8% within 2 days. So as seen over here in both the examples, okay, time is the important factor. Okay, so that is why whenever there is a time related patterns to be identified, you can use the sequence discovery technique. So for predictive modeling, the age is input, the blood pressure is input, the eye color is input into the model as an example. And what you will identify, will customer file bankruptcy? Okay, yes or no. So it is something like a lie detector. In lie detector, how does people predict? Okay, the sensors are attached on their arms and their BP is checked. If their BP goes high, that means they have got tensed while answering the question, something like that. Similarly, even eye color. Last time I discussed about the face recognition. In our upcoming lecture, I will tell you the entire case study of face reading, how predictive model is designed. But here, right now, just one aspect you can just note it, that even eye color is able to detect a lot of things. Okay, so that whenever I do prediction, I always ask for the photo of the person. So generally, aura reading, for aura reading, eyes are very, very important. And the person with specs, I don't entertain that face image, because then the eye is not, for aura reading, then the results are not accurate. So something like that, you need to design your model according to the inputs. Okay, you will be able to predict the answers. These are soft computing techniques. The answers are approximate. Always remember, the answers are near to accuracy and approximate results, but they are not exact results. Okay, because there are a lot of environmental parameters due to which um, the predictions may change. Like a lot of times there is a forecasting that today it will rain, so out of 100, 99 times it is accurate, but once in a while it may not go as per the previous history. The same parameters were there, but today it did not happen, maybe of other parameters. Okay, maybe there is an industry at the side, and today the manufacturing process was too much, and the garbage perfume collection was too much, so maybe the clouds could not crack each other. So the black box that makes prediction about the future based on the information from the past and the present. So ultimately this model is fed with the past and the present information, and based on that it predicts, right? So large number of inputs are usually available. So you can predict generally accurately by if you have the data input sets large. So this is the curve which will tell you how good is your predictive model. So your response rate, most likely to respond and least likely. So if your graph from the random selection of the data to the optimal selection, if it is in between, then you can say that it is more of a good design. So classification, as said earlier, that it is a supervised learning. We know classification is generally performed on the scene data, and that is why classification comes under the category of predictive modeling technique. Regression forecasts the future values based on the existing values. So again, since it is based on the existing values, it is a scene data, right? That's why regression technique is also a predictive technique. So you can have a regression technique. See, all the points are closer to this line. If the line goes, if the points are outside, then those are outliers. You need to have to handle those outliers by using different algorithms. And you can search it on the net, how to handle outliers and then algorithm. Now this regression technique is of two types: simple, where you can have one independent variable, and you can have more than one independent variable. For example, if you are detecting the emotion of the face using only one independent variable, that is lips, you can still use the regression technique by this way, because lips, if they expand, you have a happy face. Generally, whenever it doesn't expand, either you are in the surprise mode or you are in a sad mode. So even by using this simple logic on one's parameter lips, you can identify emotions. But if you want to go on a more accurate side, okay, as you say that only smiling can be more predictly by lips, but whether it is a surprise, sad, anger, disgust, then you need to have multiple parameters. What is the gesture of the eyebrows? So generally when the person is surprised, the eyebrows goes up. Okay, and when it is disgust, then it goes down. So this is the example of the regression technique. Okay, where in the tabular format you have name, income, age, order, and then you can have a calculation of formula by which you will feed this formula to the machine, and it will calculate the predictive analysis. Now why we are calculating this, we can do manually also, but as we saw last time that a man can compute it on a small scale, but machine has a capacity to compute it on a larger scale. So we can identify the patterns on 20 data set in say 20 minutes, but the machine can identify on 2 lakh data sets in 20 minutes using the same formula. So the more the data set, more will be the accuracy. Okay, so similarly, if the same example, if we take of age and dose using the regression technique, okay, you will give this type of graph, right? If you are using the time series, then it will be according to the future tense. So for time series, you can use the sequence discovery algorithm as the predictive techniques. So today we will stop here on the predictive technique algorithms. In our next lecture, we will be discussing about the descriptive technique algorithms. Thank you very much for your patience listening. If you have any doubts, you can mail me or comment on the comment section or message me on the group. I will be very happy to solve your doubts. Have a nice day.